I wanted to share an experience that I had at the zoo. I think it's really important because I don't think a lot of people have ever had this experience before. It's kind of rare, but I was in the presence of a lion, and it was a small zoo. It was actually publicly funded, so they had these little containers, these boxes around the zoo, where you would put money in, and the bit of food and stuff that they provide were all overly priced to make sure that these animals were taken care of, because that's how the zoo was funded. It still exists. It's out in Minnesota. But anyhow, there's this little, I guess you could say, brick hut where the lions were very rarely in. Like, usually they're out in the open area wandering around, so you'd have to see them in their environment. But this one time they were inside the brick house and in behind this very thick glass. And I remember the room was full. It was almost like there must have been children there on a field trip or something. And there was these toddlers, and they were walking back and forth with the lion. They were up against the glass, and the lion was walking on one side pacing, and the children were on the other, and they're banging against the windows. And I thought it was kind of cute. I don't know, they're little, so they kind of looked at him like he was like a big cat. And I think, being as scrawny as he was, and his mane was a little bit withered and things like this, it was easy to see that, he was not in his best, most fullest form, which is probably why zoos are kind of sad. But he stopped, and he got annoyed with their touching the window, and his lioness was behind him and stuff, so I'm sure that had something to do with it. And it looked like he was yawning. His mouth opened really big, and the kids went, "Whoa, look at his mouth, look at his teeth." And all of a sudden, there was a shaking in the building, like the glass started to tremble and the bricks started to move. That's how I know it was a brick building, because I remember the sound of the bricks moving. And then came the sound. So there was like there was something going, like, it was almost like bass. A bass hit your chest, and the bricks moved, and the glass shook, and people's natural reaction was to duck, because for some reason I ended up, ducking down to the floor with everybody else. I look up and everybody else's head's down. And we look over and the lion is roaring. And that's what we felt before we could hear it. We felt the roar before we heard it. So when it looked like he was yawning, he was actually revving up to give a sound. So I remember how fast the children were all crying, and people were rushing out of there. I mean, you wouldn't believe how many people packed that place and how fast it emptied in a very short period of time. So anyhow, there's something about this experience that that really taught me something. First of all, it's an experience I remember very vividly because I was so scared. It was the first time that I actually felt my heart in my throat, and it was really unexpected, and it really taught me something about the lion that I think I underestimated. First of all, he's not nearly as respected as he should be. Secondly, I've learned some more things about lions, like, for example, they actually depend on the roar when they're older, when they can't chase the beasts anymore. They depend heavily on the roar, because they will actually use the roar to scare things away into the direction of the lionesses, and the lioness will start hunting when he is unable to, or the younger of his pride will start hunting when he is unable to. So, which is not really the spiritual point. The spiritual point that I'm trying to make right now is that's something that I've learned the same way with God. God looked one way, and he seemed to, I related myself to him. Like the children said, "Oh, looks like he's yawning, and it looks like he's yawning." But his nature and his way is not my way and is not my nature. And that's what I've learned through God. And the same way that the lion shocked me, I've seen him do the same to other Christians, and God does this to me too. And I'm not saying God and lions are like equal. I'm just saying that there is a type of majesty. And I know in the Bible the devil is said to be like a lion, looking to see who he can devour, but I'm talking about the Lion of Judah, who is not the Scar version of the really good lion, I guess you could say. So God has taught me that his ways are not my ways, and that the way things kind of sink in isn't through comfort. A lion doesn't leave you feeling like he's royalty or like he's majestic if he lets you pet him. If he's something that tangible, then you're left feeling like you have a domesticated beast. God is not that. He is not. He cannot be domesticated. He's something. That's what makes him so majestic to me, is he always leaves me feeling shaken. And the most amazing experience I've ever had with God usually is shared, because if a lot of people have that experience or something about that's very special, which is something that's found in Christianity through the Holy Spirit. We all share that experience, that genuine experience that, even though the other people weren't there at that very moment, you can relate to them. You understand when they speak of the dreams that they've gotten, or when they got the Holy Spirit, or their testimony. You start to well up inside, and your eyes start to water, because you understand how grateful. You can feel and hear how gracious they are to a God that he doesn't need to do anything for us. So during this time when people are afraid, when people are scared, just like when the lion roared, sometimes there's the sensation that comes upon you first before the sound. And what I think it's leaving us, it's a character building. It teaches us something about ourselves. It teaches us something about God. It teaches us something about how we're vapors in the wind, and how there's something much bigger than us that's got a lot more control than we do, and who's allowing us to play a very important part, a very small part, but our parts are really important, because Jesus died for every single one of us, and that means we're valuable. If we're valuable enough for him to die for us, then we're more valuable than all the gold in all the world. For some reason, this God values us. And that's not by my opinion, that's because Jesus took the cross. That's how I know we're extremely valuable. And so it's really easy to run from God and be afraid and be scared, but you have to see the majesty in that. You have to understand this roaring lion he has an agenda. And yeah, it's not yours. His nature isn't your ways. But everything that happens works out for his good and for the good of those who love him. So, we don't see all the people he's protecting with this roar, with these events. We don't see all the people he's taking out of bondage with these things that he does. His ways are not our ways. So all we see is our own fear, or the effect of these things upon other people. But what you learn to see with time is the majesty in it. The reverence that you have for a God that is so great to save. This is Linda of Christ is King Forever. May God be with you.